Hello. Good morning, hobby fans, and welcome to Hobby Hotline. My name is Dan. I am one of the four collectors, and we're so pleased again to have Hobby Hotline on the Four Collectors Network. And we are welcome this morning with Alex. How are you, Alex?
Doing great. This lovely Saturday, starting to come into the fall season, right? And I'm furloughed, so I got nothing better to do. So might as well come on here and talk it up, right?
Nothing better than talk about hobby, and we have a replacement. Brody is not able to come on today. We heard this morning, and so John has joined us. So thank you, John, for coming in the last minute as the like the postseason. You're coming in to save the game. So there you go.
Well, I don't know. Saving might be too big of a word, but I'm definitely pinch hitting. I'm the Manny Moda of the show. Vintage guys will know who Manny Moda is. And all joking aside, Brody was supposed to be on. He may pop in just to say hello. It's not a secret. Brody's made it public. He's afflicted with epilepsy. It's a terrible disease that has affected his life as well as anyone else who unfortunately has it. So not cooperating with him this morning. We wish him well and the best. He, like I said, he may pop on, he may not. Obviously, health comes first. I'm battling the cold, which pales in comparison to what Brody's going through. So we're thinking about you, Brody. If we see you, that'd be awesome. But sorry I had to fill in, but I'm not scheduled in October, guys. So this hopefully this is my only appearance. I think others would probably echo that sentiment as well.
Well, I was not scheduled for today either, and we had a change.
Oh, that's
So
yeah,
people are going to
Logan.
get sick of me since I'm hosting next week also. So it's going to be Hobby Hotline Palooza for me.
It happens. It happens, and the way the schedule is set up, sometimes that'll happen, and then you won't see someone for a month. So most weeks, this week is an anomaly more than the norm, which is some illnesses and other things. So, but normally you'd see 3 new people each week, and better you twice a week, Dan, than myself. So there's always that positive.
I mean, I got back-to-back weeks. I was on last week.
Yeah,
and this week,
that's
right?
true. Yeah.
It's because
and Alex, I think, is in the column where, hey, we don't mind seeing him twice a week. Newman, not so much, but and you won't, barring any crazy stuff. It shouldn't happen with me. So
yeah.
Well, let's say hello to the chat. We got Stuke was in here before we even hit play. So good morning to him. I know he was up late last night in Carlos's chat talking about some stuff. So good morning to Scott. Good morning, Mad City Brew. Mike Petty is here, and Mike Petty has got us on all 23 big screens. So there you go. He's talking about pinch hitting.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take the single to right. I'm a pull hitter, so anytime I can go oppo, that's kudos to me, I guess.
Well, we're going to talk about Major League Baseball playoffs at the end of this, and Dodgers and Phillies are playing, which brings you back to 1977, and Manny Moda was crucial in winning that series for the Dodgers. So there you go. Get well, Brody. Of course, Brody stays strong. Mike Petty wasn't scheduled, but hey, someday.
Mike Petty is scheduled every week. It's an unwritten rule, so I don't buy that.
Yeah. He's out in California, so he got up at 8 a.m. for this.
Yeah, that's it. He's more, listen, getting up earlier is trickier than getting up later. So
there's Ruben Snyder. Good morning, Ruben. Rex, good morning. Yes, Moda hit a double that could have been caught by Luzinski. Yeah. Sorry, Mookie. There are playoffs happening.
Yeah, no. Mookie's a fellow Mets fan, and he probably knows we pretty much just fired the whole coaching staff except for Mendoza. So we'll have a whole new bench crew next year running under Mendoza. So that'll be interesting.
So we've got 25 in the chat. We're going to move up a little more as the
Yeah.
goes. I'm going to text my buddies and say, "What the hell you doing? Where are you?" Fine, baby, let's go. All right, there you go. So we had 3 discussion topics for today. 2 of them have to do with grading because there is not enough talk about grading on.
No, I get, it's funny, Dan, because I get that even like John, man, you talk about grading a lot. And some people, I know our own very foul 5 balls says grading's a scam and he doesn't like it. And we're all entitled to our opinion. I wasn't a fan of grading 20 something years ago when it really first hit the scene and made major moves, but I've done a 180 on it. It's too big a part of the hobby to not cover it. Let's just call a spade a spade. Whether you partake in it or you don't, it does affect your hobby and what's going on. So I get sort of some of the people saying, "Jeepers, we're talking about it." I get it, but it's you almost can't not, especially when there's news, which we do have, currently.
So, Alex, are you a PSA guy?
I am. I'm a pretty diehard PSA guy. Honestly, it's just again, it goes to what you like. Collect what you like and enjoy what you like and everything. And I just compared to, I don't like the thick slabs of BGS. I think if it's a vintage card, SGC is fine. I have no problem with it. But PSA, it's just that clean look and thinner type of slab, and I just like them better, honestly.
So the news is, and it's not news. It's about a week ago. I'm reading the headline from Hobby Sports Collectors Daily. It's PSA hikes turnaround times and prices as grading demand continues. PSA is increasing turnaround times and pricing for select grading and authentication services. My feeling about this is big picture. Collectors is a large corporation. They are not a hobby. They are not run by hobby people necessarily. And any large corporation is going to do what happens in late stage capitalism, which is they're going to incrementally raise prices and reduce services. And that's exactly what this announcement is. They're not raising prices by 100%. They're raising prices by like $1 or $2 per level in different selected levels. And they're pulling back on the service. Essentially, like, things are going to take longer, as if PSA isn't long enough anyway. So I Alex, am not a PSA fan, as you might be able to tell. But I don't think this is good for the hobby in terms of just being another example of how they're just a corporation, sucking every dime out of us as they can. So that's my little rant. John, what do you think?
Well, just for full disclosure, a lot of people know, maybe not everyone, I am a bulk subber for SGC. Yes, I still do it, even despite them getting rid of those bulk rates. I've just adjusted prices. The only 2 companies I use for grading personally is SGC and PSA. The PSA thing doesn't surprise me, Dan and Alex. Like you said, Dan, it's really a couple bucks. They've added 5 days to their turnaround time estimates for each level. Like you said, they're not quick. SGC has really gotten back to speed as far as the turnaround times. Not quite as fast as they were at their fastest. But as we're going to talk about at some point during today, their numbers are down. And as someone who bulk subs for them, I can attest to that. But I'm still getting quite a bit of people subbing through me through SGC. So I'm hoping SGC is here for the long haul. They're my favorite. personally speaking. But numbers are down as the gem rate report we'll kind of dive into talks about. But I like them both, and obviously they're related to each other under the Collectors Universe umbrella.
So the thing I want to say is, like, you have to remember they are business, right? And inflation happens. It does happen because 10 years ago, what was the price of grading, right, compared to today, right? So it's going to happen at some point. Now, the adding the days on top, that it just feels like it's just a cover their bases, because there are actual orders that are coming back earlier still. It might say it's going to take 40 days, but they could get back in 20, like, depending on what the process is at the time and the increase. I mean, John, with you still doing the bulk subs with SGC, you would think that this is great for you. With the fact that the numbers are down, that means your stuff should hopefully be going through faster, right? Because there's less stuff getting graded. So I think
the last two, real quick too, Alex, just to chime in, the last two SGC subs have come around 12 to 20 days, where before it was 4 to 5 weeks when they were sort of on their own backlog before the bulk subs went away, the rates went away. So you're gonna have to wait for PSA unless you're on one of those high end, like, quick turnaround levels. You're gonna have to wait especially in comparison to SGC. I believe SGC is probably still number one in as far as turnaround times go.
I kind of agree with what Mad City Bruce said in the chat about the higher price for monochrome to stop people from submitting, which turns into junk slabs. I think we got in that time frame of COVID and everyone sent in anything that they had. Like, I don't understand why someone sends a 18-year LeBron card in to get graded, like, or all these base cards and stuff like that, right? That's the point I don't like. I seriously don't like that, seeing all that stuff. Now, if it's for your collection because you collect individual, no problem. I have zero problem with that. But if you're someone sending in thousands of slabs because you're just going to put them into your box for $20, like, I just don't like that myself.
Well, I have two submissions with PSA right now, and one of them is an autograph, which is taking quite a long time for research, which I don't begrudge them because I want them to look at it closely. And then I have a ticket, a World Series ticket, that actually is moving along faster than they estimated, and it's already in QA. So it's sort of a mixed bag there. Yeah. I had to do two different submissions for one card each because SGC doesn't do autographs or tickets, but also because PSA would not let you combine that into one order, or at least they wouldn't let me combine it into one order. So that's kind of the thing that I'm experiencing right now. And I don't hate PSA to the point where I feel like I can't use them ever, but they're not my preferred grading company, and that's largely because I'm a vintage baseball guy.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? That's everyone. Yeah. It's hard to for people to understand, like, that's the way you feel, your opinion and everything, what you like, and that's fine. You don't have to be the same as anyone else. That's what I love about the hobby, about collecting and everything else, is you can do it the way you want. You don't have to do it the way everyone else tells you. Right.
Thank you. So, speaking of SGC, topic number 2, and this is the one that kind of got me depressed, because there was news last week that there's a guy named Brent who's worked customer service for SGC for a number of years, and I've interacted with him a number of times via email. In fact, I think we actually spoke on the phone once too. And he was really good in customer relations, and he apparently has moved on. So, Peter moving on was the big news, but nobody really talks about Brent, who was a big aspect of that company moving on. And that, sort of depressed me that maybe customer service is going to be less of an issue with PSA. But then the gem rate with SGC, sorry. But then the gem rate info came out, and it's not good. The story for me is not that their numbers are down X amount, because, they're down 49% month over month, which is insane. But the thing for me as a vintage person is that their vintage numbers are way down. And in June and July, they graded more vintage cards than PSA did, which is, consider that PSA grades 10 times more cards than them, but they were grading more vintage. And now it's the other way around. In the gem rate data for September, PSA is grading twice as many vintage cards as SGC, which seems awfully strange considering that they bought the company to make them their vintage boutique. And that's something that really concerns me as a vintage person, because if you eliminate vintage as the way that SGC is going to grade, and you start to, the numbers keep going down, and you're firing, or not firing, but moving along, important people in the company, I'm starting to feel like maybe the doomsdayers were right. John, what do you think?
I hope the doomsdayers are wrong, but yeah, this gem rate report, Dan, is definitely, if you like SGC, as I think we both do for sure, it's definitely disheartening, right? And when the bulk rates went away as a bulk subber, I knew I would get less cards, especially if I continued to do it and had to adjust to higher prices. But when you see this report, and you highlighted even on the vintage side, which is kind of what SGC, their bread and butter, if you will, it's definitely disappointing. I hope it's just a bad, quarter, if you will, rather than a complete indicator. But if collectors' intentions is to phase out SGC, they're probably liking that. Which I don't. Here's my whole thing with that, Dan and Alex. Like, if you get rid of SGC which you already own, you're just opening the door up to CGC, which you've already done. Look at CGC's numbers on the latest gem rate report. They've moved up the two now on the sports card list. So they're not hurting. Excuse me, they're not hurting CGC. They're really, it's self-inflicted, and there's smart people in the room. I'm sure they or at least they think they know what they're doing. Maybe they do, and I don't. And I don't work for them. So yeah, I don't know. I hope that SGC is around to stay, and whether that's as a, like you said, a vintage boutique, as Ryan Hoge, his terminology. But the question I too get asked, Dan, is, as the folks, I get a lot of SGC questions because I'm at the show with all the branding of SGC, and they're like, question I get, Dan, is like, if SGC was to go away, what happens to my cards that are in SGC holders value wise? And my answer is this, and I'll see what the chat thinks and you guys think. Like, the value, to me, the value shouldn't go down. Like, when those cards were graded, SGC was number 2, most likely in the grading space, and they were, their provenance is, whether they go away next month, next year, their provenance when they were here was almost second to none. If you want to say second to PSA, okay. But I don't think the fact that if they don't exist anymore just means you can't get any more cards graded by them. But I wouldn't, speaking from a personal level, I would have no problem buying a card in an SGC holder, and I don't think even selling one is going to be, for most people, a deal breaker. But that's just one man's opinion.
So having the numbers up on the screen, does it have a breakdown of how much of the 505,000 for CGC is TCG and not sports?
Because that graphic is over at gem rate. I just don't have it up on the screen.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's a bulk of it, because V Friends and Pokemon, they all use pretty much CGC to do their grading. So that comparison gets thrown in there too. And then the only point I want to make on the whole thing and everything is, and again, you guys are more the experts with it. at one point, do we run out of vintage cards to grade? Right? I mean, the modern cards are still coming, but those cards, they're not being recreated and everything, right? So at what point is any point of it that the numbers could be going down because less people are grading those cards? I mean, well, that's true, but the cards that people think should be graded.
It's a great point, and I think that's part of the reason why it becomes a boutique is because I grade as many vintage cards as I can given the circumstances of my acquisitions for my PC. Yeah. And I'm only sending in maybe 3 subs all year long, and I'm holding them back until I get about 20 cards in the stack. So yeah, the truth is that there aren't that many vintage cards that still deserve to be graded. Some people do, say, well, why would I grade, some obscure guy from the early 20th century? But, that's who I am as a collector.
Yeah.
But, and a great point about CGC, a lot of that is TCG. And there is a point, there is a graph that I was looking at, number of vintage cards graded by those companies, their percentage of what they're graded. Let me see if I can make this clear. The percentage of cards graded by TCG that are vintage is about, CGC that is vintage is about 2%. The percentage of cards graded by SGC that are vintage is about 16%. So that's what you're seeing is that they're more of a concentration on vintage than
16%.
CGC is.
16%. I would have thought it was higher.
Yeah, they actually had quite a high number on modern. It was like 30% or something, which seems to me to be a little odd. I'm guessing a lot of that is people cracking and subbing to a different company.
If 80s is the new vintage, they'll be grading forever. I love that comment in the chat.
On the bulk level, Dan and Alex in the chat room, it's about 50-50, but believe it or not, through me with vintage and modern through the SGC bulk subs. But again, I'm a small blip on that bigger radar. To answer kind of Alex's question, won't you run out of vintage cards to sub? No, I know Mike Petty mentioned a comment. People do crack them and resubmit them as they do even with the modern cards. That's not exclusive to vintage. Also, listen, you go to a show, especially a vintage heavy show, there's plenty of raw vintage still in circulation that people are buying and subbing. And here's the difference, one of the differences of vintage and modern, right? If you buy a modern card that has some defects, you're most likely, unless it's a really personal card or something for your PC that you want encapsulated, you don't care about the grade, you're probably not submitting a flawed, modern card for grading. But on the vintage side, that rule really doesn't apply. People are doing for vintage sets where they just want every card graded. They're doing again their favorite player run, whatever the case may be. Hey, this is the first card I ever pulled out of a pack. I'm getting it slab. So the reasons you wouldn't sub a modern card that would be a deal breaker don't really apply for most people on the vintage side. And there's, again, this goes without saying, but there's plenty of cards on the vintage side of the house that are still raw and just waiting to be put in the sonically sealed plastic. So it never will be, I don't want to say, there never be any cards, vintage cards for grading. But it's also a viable point that, the new stuff is constantly produced, which there always be a endless supply of that. At least till the aliens come in November, if you're reading that report.
It's true.
Big thing. So you got a couple more. What's it, September or it's October? You got like 2 more months to get all your cards in to whatever that's on radar comes.
So the other concern that I had, and I think you sort of implied this, John, and maybe Alex a little bit, is that people might be fearful about the status of their SGC holders now, thinking that the company could go under or be discontinued or whatever, and then in that sense, because they're scared of it, they're not going to send in any new cards. That this does not affect me. My pile is for SGC, but I feel like that's a potential problem if it's a situation where you feel like the company might be going out of business. You don't want to be stuck with a bunch of GAI slabs. You might go to PSA or CGC. Thoughts?
I agree with you. I think that's one of the reasons for this precipitous drop, if you will. I think people are kind of, what's going on? What's trying to read the writing on the wall. They're hearing content creators say, "Hey, the end is near." SGC is almost done. So I get it. I hope that's not true and that's not the case. But I can only speak for me, Dan here and Alex. God forbid that is the case. To me, that doesn't change what's already happened, right? And a card in an SGC, if they were a new company that lasted 5 years and then are going away, I would agree that would make more sense. But this is a company with good lineage, 20 plus years of service. Like, even if they don't exist tomorrow, they existed in good standing for 20 years. So I would have no problem buying a card I wanted that was in an SGC holder. And as someone who sells cards in SGC's holder, I'd venture a guess that I don't think it would affect my pricing would affect my sales more than the fact that maybe SGC wouldn't be around. Again, that's just my personal opinion. I'm curious to what others might agree or disagree.
I think the one thing, and I'm sorry, did I cut you off, Alex, there?
You're good.
Okay. The one thing that you can say about SGC, and this is part of your point, is that if they do get discontinued by collectors, it's not because of anything they did wrong. And with GAI and some of the other companies, a lot of the reason they didn't continue is because they had controversy or incompetence or whatever. SGC went out on top, and if they do get discontinued, it's because of business reasons, not because of reasons having to do with the quality of their product. So in that sense, you're right, John, that I can trust an SGC slab to be a correct grade for a card. In fact, with vintage, I think I trust it more than PSA, but that being as it may. We are now a half an hour in, and we have talked about grading, so I think it's time to let me just see what we got in the chat. I've been looking at it a little bit. They're still talking about grading too. So yeah, was Fanatics going to purchase SGC and rename it? No, that's not going to happen.
Man, if that happens, I've talked about this on my podcast, Dan and Alex. I love SGC, but if a card manufacturer ever bought them, that would be a deal breaker for me because it's a conflict of interest.
Yep.
SGC sponsors my Sports Card Nation podcast. That would be the end of that relationship. Because I just think it's I never, and this isn't an SGC thing. I never want to see a card manufacturer own a grading company. I don't think that should be allowed. And if it is, I would not submit to that grading card company. So if Fanatics bought PSA or SGC, that would be my end of subbing to either one of those companies, just on the moral of it, that they're grading, in a sense, their own products, which I just think is, to me, is nuts, and I wouldn't support that.
So there has been some discussion in the chat about antitrust. Yes, I am a lawyer. I haven't had any training in antitrust law since law school. I did very well in it, but it was not my area of expertise. So I can't answer these questions. But Greg makes a pretty good point here, and that's that the federal government is probably not going to invoke antitrust on sports cards. I don't see it happening. Right now, they have a lot of other priorities, so it's not really something I expect to see, which means that PSA is going to be running the roost for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know this, Dan, too. These companies have lawyers, right? So before they get in these deals, those lawyers, either green light it or red light it, or even if it's red lighted, they figure out a way where it is legal and can't be under the scope of law. So a lot of this stuff sort of dealt with ahead of time. I'm not saying things can't still happen, but like Greg said, I think they got bigger fish to fry. But that's a topic that comes up every so often, right? Not even in grading, but regulation in the sports card hobby space, just in general. With a lot of the scams and frauds that we're seeing. I'll never say never, but if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet on it either, I guess is the way I would answer that.
Yep. So now for the fun stuff. Major League Baseball playoffs. Alex, are you a baseball guy at all?
I'm an all sports guy. I grew up playing
cool.
baseball. I grew up playing baseball and basketball, but I avid sports nut with watching everything.
And do you have a team in the Major League Baseball playoffs?
I do. We got a World Series, while I was alive with the Nationals. So I'm happy about that. Since then it's just like, I guess we're still part of the MLB.
Well, you can't trade away your best players or let the other ones go.
Correct. Yes.
Although actually they won the World Series after Harper left.
Yes.
So
yes, right after Harper left. So, and I like Harper, and I think he's turned into more of that, down the earth type of guy. He's not all in the news and stuff, and it from back when he was with the Nats, because all the eyes were on him, to switching over to the Phillies and to what he is today is complete. I think a 180. He's still an incredible player.
And to your point, Tony from Southern Collector has done work on his house, on Harper's house, and apparently met him, and apparently he is a pretty good guy. So,
awesome.
No firsthand accounts are usually quite helpful, especially in situations that are not on a baseball field or in an interview situation or whatever.
So being that I go to a lot of the shows here on the East Coast and everything, and I'm an avid, I work media for the Philly show. Beginning of the year, the first show of the year, it was a month after the Eagles won. So, the world champions were there signing at the show. December show is the next Philly show. So since I have no dog in the fight, I'm hoping for the Phillies to win it all. So all the World Series champs are there at that show, which would be incredible too.
Yeah, well, I've been to every Philly show since 2020 or 21 when they started again, and I do remember that Eagles show. And it was the show was run very well because it was a madhouse outside with kids with helmets and all kinds of stuff. But it inside the show, it was fine. So kudos to whoever is handling the logistics of it. But if they get if the Phillies, I mean, even if they go far, I mean, if they make the World Series and lose, they're still going to end up getting a bunch of Philly signings.
There's a complete difference between having the champs there or not. Like it's gonna be fun. That show's always fun though.
Yeah, totally. So that series, Phillies Dodgers, is one that I referenced a little earlier, is kind of cool because it brings back some historical, 77 and 78 they played in the playoffs, and I think they've probably played since then. But and two very, very good teams, so that should be a really good series. Who do you have in that one, John?
Boy, that's a tough one. Like you said, at this point of the year, you don't get to where you are by accident. You got things clicking, whether it be pitching, hitting, or both. Alex is not going to like me saying this, or whoever's. I give the edge to the Dodgers, right? But
I do too.
Again, a ball break, the catcher break here and there, and you can the series can change. So I want to, the Dodgers are just loaded. They've become sort of what the Yankees were back in the day, where they just sign everybody. You're almost the favorite just there. They got they got the best player in baseball in Ohtani, and the word is he might even pitch a little bit in this series.
Today.
Starting today.
So that's that and you see what's going on in the playoffs, guys. Like, starting pitchers are not going even 5 innings. They're doing the 3 or 4 innings and then using the bullpen and saving the starters to pitch sooner or even in relief themselves. There's almost what a starting pitcher is in 2025 is not what it was in 1985 or 95 or 2005. You may only be asked to pitch 3 or 4 innings and then come back in a couple of days and pitch again. And we see these relievers are pitching every day, whether it be an inning or 2. So these are almost short stints by starters and become bullpen games. And it's a different approach. And if Ohtani can pitch like he's capable of, you got to remember when he's pitching, he's still hitting too. So it's not like the DH. So there is no DH. And obviously, go ahead, Alex.
I think it's going to be very interesting today, like this game, because it's in Philly and Ohtani's pitching, and everyone knows like the link it's incredible, right? No, is it the link? Whatever stadium they have, it is incredible atmosphere. Like, if they can get to his pitching, right? How they do in Philly. I've listened yesterday, and the manager of the Dodgers said Kershaw's going to be in the bullpen. He's not going to be a starter. He's going to be coming out of the bullpen. I think they have the edge on pitching, honestly. Like, if their starters can go into those later innings, like you're saying, a lot of them go short and then they do a bullpen session after that and everything for, finishing the game. If those starters can go deep, right, then who knows? Who really knows how it's going to go? But I think today's game is going to set a presence because the fact they're in Philly, Ohtani's pitching in Philly. Can that crowd get to him? And can the Phillies bats, get to him too? So I'm excited to watch that game.
And I'm assuming he's not back. I think it was season ending. Zach Wheeler being out is a blow, right? Although I think it's a less of a blow when we see starting pitchers only be used for 3-4 innings at a time anyway. It's still a blow because they don't have their ace, if you will. I know they got others, Sanchez, Nola. Again, you get to this part of the year, anyone can win a series. If you're a Mets fan like me, maybe you're subliminally you're rooting not for the Phillies rather than for the Dodgers. I don't want either team to win, so hopefully maybe they have a draw.
All you guys had to do was beat the Marlins, and you couldn't do it.
We were bad. Don't listen. I'm still going to therapy, Alex. I don't want to talk about it. But no, yeah. Listen, we were our own worst enemy. Like, we have no one. The Mets have no one to blame but themselves.
Even if they had won, they would have gone. If they had won, they would have gone into LA and lost in 2 games, just like the Reds did.
Yeah, I would have liked the opportunity to lose in the 2 games, like the Reds did, but like Alex reminded us, and they were swept. There was a series against the Pirates about mid-year where they were swept by the Pirates too. Like, we could point to a lot of different points where they were their own worst enemy.
The whole year, you play all the games for a reason, right? So at any point during the year, you could have had 1 more win, 2 more wins. And it would have been It would have been fine. So,
yeah. How about and the other thing about this time of year too, the postseason, what it does to the hobby, right? We saw Cam Schlitter's performance the other night in Game 3 against the Red Sox. He was lights out. Speaking of starters only going 3 or 4 innings, how about this young man? 8 innings, no walks, 12 Ks. Go to eBay and type Cam Schlitter and see what prices of his cards. It's insane.
What's even more? what's even more insane with it, guys, I was talking about this yesterday. His Bowman first card is in a product that just came out a month ago, right? In Bowman Chrome.
Crazy.
Right?
I saw like base cards going $50 to $100.
Yeah.
Anything of color. I saw an auto. I think it was an orange shimmer auto, $8K, $8,000. We all know, the unwritten rule, right? Be careful buying cards of pitchers. Here's a guy. Obviously he's ace material, but he's very young. Things can change too. If I'm going to spend $8,000, no offense to Cam Schlitter, I'm buying, again, I'm a vintage guy too. I'm buying someone who's already been there, done that, and is definitely a safer play. But people love this time. People love baseball playoffs for various reasons, right? Maybe we love it because we're just baseball fans and we want to see who wins and heroes of the day. Others are watching this almost like, hey, whose card should I put on the marketplace today? And the Schlitter cards definitely went up right probably during that game, let alone after that game. So there you go.
307, and it's got how much time does it have left? It's got some more time to go. It's got ends in 6 days. It has 15 bids already. It's not even a 10. I mean,
this is it's insane.
What's wild is that
one game.
That's what's even crazier. That ends probably after his next possible start, maybe, right? 6 days from now. And what if he comes out there and bombs? Like that auction stops. Like literally it's not going to go 1 cent more of what it is.
That's a
no pay. What if he comes out and blows his arm out?
That's sorry, my kid bid. I can't buy it.
My dog grabbed my phone and opened the eBay app and hit that. Buy it now. My bad. I'll put my dog in this crate. Won't happen again. It's crazy. I will say though, Cam Schlitter is fun to say, and I'm sure the New York papers, the Post and the Times are having fun with the headlines there, especially.
There's a lot of people having fun with saying he looks like Garrett Cole. He looks like him. He has mannerism and everything else like that. They're like he's a young Garrett Cole because Garrett Cole just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, there's the caveat, right? Pitchers, they generally only pitch once every 5 days, and if they get hurt, and Garrett Cole's been hurt the last 2 years, believe me, it was one of my fantasy league picks. So, free DL move, but I would rather have him pitch for my fantasy team than be a free DL move. But that's the caveat, right? When we're talking about pitchers, beware. And if he's spending $8,000 to $10,000 on a guy that's done it for 8 games, if you will, if you include the regular season performances, where he pitched well, just the sample size is way too small. And listen, I take nothing away from this young man. I watched that game the other night, game 3, on TV, and was electric, man. He didn't walk anyone, 12 Ks. He looked like, as a Mets fan, he looked like that Dwight Gooden, young Dwight Gooden. But we know how that turned out too, Mets and baseball fans in general. So, buyer beware. But if I have it, I don't have, like you said, Alex, he's pretty new to product, so I don't have any Cam Schlitters. But man, if I did, I wouldn't have them anymore because I'd be listing those, whether it be eBay or another platform. But that's what happens in the play, and it's not even just rookies. We're going to see that with veterans. Somebody has a night, and that stuff's going to go. Their cards are going to go up overnight, and it's not new. I'm not acting like, oh my god, I can't believe this. But it's not a new phenomenon, but it's still a phenomenon nonetheless that we see.
I had to pull up the player's name. So for the hobby related stuff in the playoffs, right? You had Chase DeLauder had his debut in the playoffs. So his debut patch that Topps
Yeah.
make, it's going to put in to eventually update, where it is the first one ever starting in the playoffs. So that's pretty cool, right? So I wonder if that will give it a little bit extra. I mean, he's on the Guardians, so you got to be a diehard Guardians fan for that. But that definitely gives a little bit of hobby love there, showing like this was from the playoffs, not regular season game.
Yeah, I'll never pull something like that. I don't open enough new wax anyway to ever pull something like that. But that's going to be cool. Do we know, would that be the first time since they've started doing these?
It is. It's the
will be the case.
First time a playoff a guy's made their debut and had that patch on in the playoffs. So they've only had it, of course, for a few years now. But it's interesting for those things. I always joke around saying, what's the over under of how many Topps Now cards are we going to get during the playoffs? During the whole thing, like how many times are they going to come out with a card during it just to soak up more money? But I mean, there's other things, right? That lead into the sets for next year. You have they always have the World Series relics, right? And series, is it 1 or 2 from whoever's playing in the World Series. So if you are an avid fan of those teams, like once they get to the World Series, you're like, oh, I got a set that I could be chasing after next year and stuff, which is a very regarded set.
So no Cubs
Yeah,
fans
go ahead.
in here.
Go ahead, Dan.
Cubs are playing the Brewers, and the Brewers have been sort of off for a few days, so that has the potential to be an upset. And the Cubs are kind of playing well now, so I'm interested to see if there are any Cubs fans in the chat or amongst you guys, because that's a series that I'm really kind of interested in.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, I know Bo 1 million Cubs is sometimes in the chat. I don't know if he is now, but we know who he's obviously rooting for. Yeah, these series, Dan, like you said, like there's no real chalk at this point, right?
Yeah.
Someone steals a game that maybe shouldn't have won the game. That could change the whole complexion of the series. We're seeing these young players play out of their minds. Even the Red Sox pitcher who lost the game against Schlitter, Connolly, I think his name is, or Connolly Early, he didn't pitch bad, and he's a young guy that pitched well for him in the regular season. So we're seeing some young players come up now in the major leagues and represent themselves well. And it's fun to watch. While disappointed that the Mets are in the postseason, as a baseball fan, these series are still interesting enough to me to watch these games.
There's a lot of variables that come into these games too, because you got to think like the Cubs Brewers, they play each other multiple times throughout the year, so they've seen each other, right? And you really don't have to go too far. Same with the Yankees and Blue Jays, right? They're in the same division. However, the dynamic that's even crazier for the Dodgers and the Phillies, they're the farthest apart from everybody, right? East Coast and West Coast. So the travel in between, right, could be a factor compared to some of these others. They don't have to travel that far, so that's also comes into play a little bit too.
The Yankees Toronto is interesting for me because I watched the Yankees get destroyed by Toronto throughout the regular season. I didn't look it up, but I'm assuming they lost like 3/4 of the games they played against Toronto. But somebody just pointed out in chat that the Blue Jays are a little banged up. Banged up pretty badly. I guess it's who Bichette is out for the year.
Bo Bichette, yeah.
So we'll see what happens. The Yankees have 2 amazing starters, and then their third starter ended up just throwing the game of a lifetime. So,
I think I'm not a Yankee guy. Was as a kid. I think they're if we're talking about favorites of each series, I would lean towards them over the Jays. The Jays pitching doesn't knock my socks off. I know Kevin Gausman is starting the first game for the Blue Jays, but I give the Yankees the pitching edge and their hitters aren't too shabby either. And like the chat said, right, the Blue Jays are dealing with some injuries, but Vlad Jr. is playing well. George Springer has started to heat up. I know he has stretches where he sort of disappears, but yeah, I think the Yankees pitching will probably be the difference there. But again, you still got to go out on the field. You can't just throw your jersey out there and win. You got to go out there and do it. So, but if I was a betting guy, and I actually am a betting guy, I would probably lean towards the Yankees winning the series. But this is why they play the games, right? Anything can happen. One of the Yankees pitchers could blow out their arm. One of the skill set players could get hurt and change the complexion of the series. And you get into the postseason and those hot lights, right? Some people perform well under them. Some sometimes wilt. So, that's why we watch, right? To see who's going to step up or who may not. And, I wish the Mets were there, but being a baseball fan in general, I still watch a lot of this postseason ball, and it's fun to watch. And, again, these series, sure, the Dodgers may be the favorites in their series. The Yankees may be the favorites over the Blue Jays, but when the series starts, right, no one's won a game yet. So you look at the numbers, guys, teams that win those opening games traditionally have a better shot, obviously, at winning the series. So game one is always very important, kind of to set the tone of the series. So,
how did you guys like the first series, the wild card changing to the home team is the same, right? They don't.
Yeah, I don't. I love that question. I don't like it because what if you're a fan of the Red Sox, right? You had a good year, and you don't get a game at Fenway Park, where I just went last month for the first time ever. A great ballpark. Mm-hmm. You're a Red Sox season ticket holder who bought season tickets to see your team make the postseason. They were even in first place for a little bit, and you don't win the division. I think they should get one game. I think it should be the better team should get the 2 home games.
The problem is, the logistics of it don't really work the other way around, because you don't want to give the first game of the series to the team with the worst record, and you don't want to give the last game of the series to the team with the worst record. So you would have to go one travel, one back.
Yeah, you go to New York, Boston, New York. I know,
right, that's not a problem. But what if
not
it's
a problem
Philly
for there? Yeah, but if it's like big distance,
I get it. I'm not arguing the demographics of it. Yeah. I get why they did it, guys. But I'm not a Red Sox fan, but imagine being a Red Sox fan and you're not that far behind the Yankees. We're talking about a couple games, and you don't get a home game to watch your guys play. You know what I mean?
Well, think of it this way. Up until a few years ago, was it 2 or 3 years now we've had this format, you used to get one game. Remember that one game thing? I hate it.
That I don't like because that leaves too much to chance.
Yeah.
So how many games do they play a year?
162.
So you have 162 games to be better than the other team.
I get it.
Truthfully, it's just like this is the way they're going. Like, be better than the other team, which is wild though, because a lot of these are better than majority of the rest of the league. So I can see it. I can see both ways. I
just look at it from a fan perspective. You support your team all year. You go to Fenway Park. I'm using the Red Sox here as the example, and you don't even get to go to Fenway Park one more time. Your team makes the playoffs, and you don't get to see them one more time, unless obviously if they beat the Yankees, you would. But I think you should have one.
New York.
It's not that far.
No, I get it. I think there should have been one game. I think even the lower seed should get one potentially one home game, right? I get why they did it. I just put myself as a fan, and that would kind of stink that you you don't get to go to a postseason game.
Yeah. Make
Well,
the
the
wild
next
card round
thing-
neutral. Let's make the wild card round neutral field. Then you go into
They would never. The teams would never support
There's
that.
too much money at
money.
stake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Yankees did. The Yankees did very well those 3 games in concessions and ticket sales and merchandise. They're not going to give that up necessarily to a neutral site.
The next move is that they turn it into a 5-game series, and then you get 3, 2, 2, and then 1. So the problem is timing. I mean, you only have so much time to play. You don't want the World Series to be in December. I mean, it's like,
yep,
the season is long enough as it is. But oh well, we'll see.
Well,
so
we can
got
have
one
a
more
Mr.
playoff.
December, but then we could go from a Mr. October to a Mr. December.
We have one more. The series between Seattle and Detroit. I don't really know much about it other than like Raleigh and Scooble. So I think that's
those
actually
are.
is that the first game today? No, that's the night. That's the late
No.
game. First game is Cubs Brewers at 2:00.
I think again. I'm gonna go, man. The Tigers struggled during the last part of the year. They had a 15-game lead on the Indians at one point, and the Indians wound up winning the division, getting all 3 games in Cleveland, and the Tigers took that series 2-1. They're starting to play well. Regardless of what happened in Houston, I still believe A.J. Hinch is one of the better managers in Major League Baseball. He always seems to get the most out of the least rosters. And the Tigers roster is not scary. Riley Green's good. They got players. Tariq Skubal is obviously arguably the best pitcher in baseball. So there's that. But it's hard to pick against the Tigers. I think they're starting to play well, and AJ Hinch is one of the best in-game managers and series managers. So I'm gonna lean Tigers, but Seattle's no slouch either. They won that AL West. So again, this is why we play these series. But I would, again, if I was a betting man and I just happened to be a little bit, I would lean Tigers.
I'm the type of person I believe momentum is a huge thing when it comes into the playoffs, right? And the fact that these teams haven't played in over a week, and these other teams have been in the environment already. All of them have been, except for the Dodgers, are just like, yeah, we're good still. They've been in that hard environment, and now they're going into the next game where these guys have just been sitting there waiting. It's same for the NFL. It's all the playoffs from all the major sports, and I think that makes the game so much better, down the run. So I think the Tigers are going to give the Mariners a run for their money.
Yeah, it's a good point too, Alex. With the Mariners kind of sitting, and all these division winners that get sort of this bye, that can go one or two ways, like you just said, Alex. Sometimes I know they're working out, they're having batting practice, they're having practices, they're not watching TV and eating Cheetos, but that playing games and practicing are 2 different things. And we've seen this before where a team has 5 to 7 days off, and then they look flat when the series does start. And that's the risk, right? And I've heard managers talk and say they're not that disappointed they didn't have their bye because they just continue to play. They don't want almost the break. They want their guys to continue to play. So we'll see how that affects the Mariners. We'll see how that affects the Phillies, who had that break as well. All those division winners, right? See how that affects those, or doesn't affect, right? Doesn't have to affect it. Every team and player is different, but we've seen that happen before where a team gets a bye and they just look terrible once they get back on the field again because they're playing a team that never got a break and they're just in full go mode. So we'll see. That's another reason sometimes you could be the favorite and not win. And why we watch the game. So,
we're we're coming up on an hour, so we're going to wrap it up. Alex, anything you want to tell the chat about? Any projects you're involved in that you want to talk about?
No. So next thing is that I'm gonna be dealing with is the CSA show in a couple weeks, and everyone's seen the news about the Dulles Expo Center turning into the IKEA. I just know CSA has not been given word, and right now they technically have a contract through all of next year. So hopefully that will continue even if it goes somewhere else. But buy what you love. Don't worry about what other people say. I know I do, card content online and everything, but in the end, just buy what you love. Like, you can't go wrong with it.
John, anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, real quick. I have Hobby Quick Hits. That's coming out on Monday. That's a Q&A episode. Some of the questions I get asked from listeners of my content, I'll answer some of those on that show. Friday is next Friday, Sports Card Nation. We're going to have Frank, the Sports Card CPA. So if you buy or sell sports cards, he's going to share some tips to stay legal and maybe save a few bucks at the same time as staying legal, so you don't get yourself in trouble. As a seller myself and buyer, it's definitely right up my alley. And so that'll be next Friday. And, I just wanted to let Brody know where everyone here at Hobby Hotline's thinking about him. Hope he's doing all right. And I know others in the hobbyverse same as well. We'll see him again. I know it didn't work out today, but we'll see him again on the program. Thanks to you, Dan. You also pinch hit. So we're both Manny Modas today.
Manny Moda and Vic Davalio. Those were the two pinch hitters in that game, in game 4, I think it was, in Philly. Sorry, Philly guys, to remind you of this, but the Dodgers put together a 9th-inning rally and came back to win on the verge of elimination. And then there was the next game where they beat Carlton. So the Dodgers went to the World Series. For me, I've got a podcast thing coming up on the 15th. It's going to be on both For Collectors and the Sports Card Clubhouse on Spotify. It's an interview with a very, very outstanding hobby person. I'm not going to spoil it yet, but it's going to be really cool. And then I got a bunch of stuff coming up, getting ready for the Shriners show. There's a Shriners live stream on For Collectors on the 26th, and we're going to be really looking forward to that. It's going to be some YouTube get-togethers at the Shriners show and some nice meetups. So really looking forward to that. So thank you, Alex, for coming on. Really appreciate it. John, again, thanks for coming in and pinch hitting, and I really enjoyed this. And I'll be back on Hobby Hotline next week with
I was going to say
in Orlando. Yeah, that's going to be.
You won't be pitch hitting. That you will be in the starting. You will be starting right from the jump.
That will be my. It was supposed to be my debut as a host, but this is my 3rd appearance on Hobby Hotline in the last 6 weeks. So people are going to start getting sick of me.
No, that's just me. You're still good.
All right.
So,
all right, guys. Chat. Really appreciate all the input, guys. Take care. We're going to end the stream now and talk.